Hello students and welcome back. In our last session we discussed about coordination in plants, where we saw how plants, despite lacking a brain or nerves, still respond to the stimuli using hormones, right? So these hormones are called as plant hormones, or also called as phytohormones. In shortcut we are calling them as PGRs, right? Plant growth regulators. So it has auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, ethylene, and ABA, abscisic acid, right? So even though without the brain or nerves, still they respond to the stimuli using these type of hormones and possesses activities like phototropism plus hydrotropism, thigmotropism, chemotropism, right? So different types of responses are produced by the plants using these type of chemical factors. It's truly fascinating how life adapts to ensure survival, right? So now we began the continuation of that topic with control and coordination in animals, right? So animals, unlike plants, have a much more complex and faster system for coordination. So the coordination system in animals is very quick. It is very quick and it is very fascinating and complex. So the coordination system in animals is complex and as well as very much faster. Why it is required to be like very quick? Because animals, unlike plants, they are having the capability of locomotion. That means they move from one place to another place in search of food, water, shelter, or even for mate. So animals move from one place to another place. They hunt. They need to escape from the predators. They need to escape from the predators and respond instantly to the changes around them. So this needs for speed and accuracy in fulfilled by two major systems. So this quick system is controlled by two major systems. One we are calling it as nervous system, which is controlled by neurons, whereas the second system is endocrine system, which is maintained by chemical barriers called as hormones, right? So let's understand this with a simple example, right? Imagine you accidentally touch a hot iron. What happens? You don't stop to think, right? You immediately pull your hand back. So that's a reflex action. It's your body way of protecting you from harm instantly. So here your skin acts as receptor. So in case of neuron or nervous system, how the nervous system in animals is acting very quickly so that you can escape from danger things is like, for example, if you touch an hot object, so your skin acts as a receptor. So skin here acts as receptor, right? And it detects the change. So receptor means it is detecting the stimuli. So here the stimuli is hotness of the rod. So this message is carried by sensory nerves to the spinal cord. It is carried to the spinal cord for immediate action, right? So which immediately sends the signal to your motor neurons. So motor neurons which are present near to the location. So they send the signal towards the motor muscles of your hand, telling them to contract and pulling your hand back. So all this happens in a fraction of seconds. So this quick responses is handled by the nervous system, right? So nervous reactions are always very fast. But on other hand, if you take the endocrine system, if you think about it, your body grows, how your moods are getting changed, mood change, or how sugar levels are maintained inside your body. So that's because of your endocrine system that works. So using hormones like growth hormone or insulin, or for example adrenaline, your body system will be maintained to go with homeostasis. Homeostasis, what we learned yesterday, homeostasis means maintaining steady internal state, constant internal state we are calling it as, or balanced state we are calling it as homeostasis. For example, if you take so for example, if you take, you had your food, example for endocrine system if we talk. So for example, if you have taken some food, so the food will undergo digestion and release sugar, right? So this sugar will be released into the blood. So now the blood you are having is having rich content of sugar. So this much of sugar or glucose is not needed in your blood. So what happened? This hyper condition will be lowered by releasing an hormone called as insulin, which is secreted by pancreas, right? So the pancreas will release the insulin. This insulin will convert the hyper sugar into glycogen and store it in the liver. So here we are maintaining a balanced state. That means the hypertonic condition is converted into a moderate condition, right? So this is in case 1. If you observe case 2, that means if your blood is having hypo condition, that means no blood sugar or very less amount of sugar is present inside your blood. Again the pancreas will detect this change and it will secrete another hormone called as glucagon. So this glucagon will act on the glycogen which is stored in the liver and causes it to release glucose into the blood. So maintaining again, so hyper condition is getting to moderate condition, and again hypo condition is also getting into the moderate condition, so that in both case 1 and case 2 your body is trying to maintain a balanced state of sugar inside your blood. So all this will be done by your endocrine system. So in this chapter we will explore how neurons transmit message. Of course we already learnt about them, how neurons will transport message in your 9th grade when you are reading about animal tissues topic, right? And how brain and spinal cord functions. So when we are talking about nervous system, it is mandatory to talk about how the brain and spinal cord will be function, because those are the functional organs present in the nervous system. And the role of reflexes. So coming to the role of reflexes, how instantly you are getting protected, because we are saying control and coordination in animals. Animal is a highly complex organism and requires a very fast response, right? And then how hormones are regulated in different animals. So hormone regulations. So these are the different aspects that we will cover in this topic. So this topic helps us to understand not just about how animals survive, but how their sense organs think and how they react, making it one of the most interesting and important concepts in biology. So let's get started. So when coming to the control and coordination, first we will discuss about nervous control. Nervous control and coordination in animals. So in animals, two kinds of control and coordination were present as we discussed earlier. One is nervous control, which will be done by neurons, and second one is chemical control, which will be done by your endocrine system. The nervous coordination is brought by the nervous system with the help of neurons, and both the nervous system and as well as endocrine system, both are called as integrated systems. Integrated system. Nervous system is called as first integrated system in your body. So what do you mean by integrated system? So integrated system is the one which controls all the other systems inside the body. So as we said in the earlier classes, humans or mammals or even animals, all these are belonging to highly complex organization called as organ system level of organization. Because of this higher level of organization, there are multiple systems that are run inside your body. So in order to not get overlap or to take control over another systems, your body will have integrated system which will control all the activities that will not disturb your homeostasis. So the first integrated system is a nervous system, and the second integrated system is your endocrine system, and whereas third integrating system is your circulatory system, which we are already discussing them. So for such control and coordination, it should require some gatherings. So this gathering includes, it should get information from changes. Changes here is nothing but the stimuli. So it should get the stimulus. So whatever the stimulus changes are present internally and as well as externally. And secondly, they need to have exchange of information. Exchange of information. So in order to maintain the integrated system for control and coordination, it should require certain type of gatherings. So this gathering includes the information about the changes, that is nothing but the stimulus that are created internally within the body and as well as externally, that means inside the environment. And also they require exchange of information between the cells situated around each other or far from each other. So in humans, if you observe human nervous system, if you observe the human nervous system, as we said, it is a very highly complex system. So the nervous system of human consists of central nervous system, which we all know, shortcut we are calling it as CNS, and it also has PNS, peripheral nervous system. Right. So this human nervous system, which are broadly divided into CNS and PNS, are carried out by a functional cells called as neurons, which we already discussed. That means neurons are the structural and functional units of nervous system, right? And also neurons are the longest cells of the body. Longest cells of the body. Right. So these unite the receptor and as well as the effector organs with each other. So neuron, if you observe, it is the connection between the sensory organ to the effector organ. That means the one which is showing the response, the one which receives the response, and the one which shows the response. Okay. So this is the connection between the one which receives, that means the effector, and the one which shows the response, that is effector. So then coming to the division of nervous system, the human nervous system is divided mainly into two categories, as we all know. So first one is, it is divided into CNS, that is nothing but central nervous system, which is an integrative and control center. So the CNS has two important parts. First one is brain and second one is spinal cord. And then the human nervous system has another division called peripheral nervous system. In shortcut we are calling them as PNS, and it is a communication medium between CNS and the rest of the body. So this is the medium between CNS and your body parts. So this PNS is again divided into two divisions based on what region they are going. So first one is efferent region or efferent division, and second one is efferent division. Efferent division and efferent division. So as we said, efferent is nothing but the one which receives the stimuli. So the one which receives the stimuli is nothing but sensory. And effector means the one which gives the response, that we are calling it as motors or mechanical. So efferent has the connection between CNS and sense organs, whereas effector has the connection between effector or motor organs and CNS. So simply human nervous system is divided into two categories. One is CNS, that is the main central or control unit, main control unit, and second is PNS, which we are calling as a medium between CNS and as well as your body parts. So it has two divisions, one which deals with the CNS and the sensory, that means the one which receives the stimuli. After receiving the stimuli, whatever the action or command will be given by the CNS, it will be carried out by the efferent division from effector to the CNS. Now the efferent division, so the efferent, that means the effector and the CNS region, how they are divided means, again these are divided into two categories. So first one is autonomic nervous system, and second one is somatic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. So as the name itself is saying, autonomic nervous system, it is about CNS dealing with involuntary organs. Involuntary organs or involuntary tissues which made up the organs. And whereas the somatic, it deals with the other than all voluntary organs. And again autonomic nervous system is divided into two divisions. One is sympathetic division and second one is parasympathetic division. Okay, so sympathetic division and parasympathetic division, one which body systems uses during emergency situations, and second one is which is used in non-emergency functions. So simply the human nervous system is divided into two categories. One is CNS and second one is PNS. CNS has two main units. One is brain, second one is spinal cord. Whereas the PNS, which is the medium between CNS and as well as the body parts, is again divided into two zones. One is efferent zone and second one is efferent zone. Efferent zone is the connection between the sensory and CNS, whereas efferent is a connection between effector and CNS. Again the efferent region is divided into two. One is autonomic and second one is somatic. Autonomic means which deals with the involuntary, whereas somatic is which deals with the voluntary. And again autonomic is of two types, one which deals with emergency conditions called as sympathetic division, and the one which deals with non-emergency things is called as parasympathetic division. Next, so briefly we will discuss about the divisions of nervous system, that is just the flow chart. So first we have CNS, central nervous system. So when coming to the central nervous system, it lies along the main longitudinal axis of the body. Main longitudinal axis of the body is like from anterior-posteriorly. Okay, anterior-posteriorly. So anterior-posteriorly it is present, and it consists of brain and spinal cord. Right. So the brain is covered with cranium. If the brain is protected in cranium, as we all know, called as brain box, whereas spinal cord is protected by vertebral column, also called as backbone. Right. And these two are surrounded by three protective membranes called as meninges. So these are nothing but first outer dura mater, middle arachnoid membrane, and inner pia mater. So these three are common for both brain and spinal cord. And then coming to the next system, that is PNS, peripheral nervous system. So it is nothing but what we said in the flow chart. So PNS is the connection between CNS and the effector organs. So PNS consists of nerves that are arised from CNS. So CNS nunchi ochina nerves are nothing but the PNS. So it is the nerves that extends between the CNS and sense organs. If you are talking about efferent division, and or CNS to motor parts, which when we are talking about efferent division, or both the cases. So it carries information to and from the CNS. So if you take about sensory or CNS, the sensory organs will receive the stimuli will be passed to the CNS. This is two direction. And then from CNS to the respond actor. So this is from direction. So to and fro direction the information will be passed. So this will be carried out by the peripheral nervous system. It enables to control the voluntary activities of the body, and this includes, so this passage of information will be done by two types of nerves. One, we are calling it as cranial nerves, which are coming from brain, and second one is spinal nerves, which are coming from spinal cord. So number you can just remember them as 1, 2, 3, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 1. So there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves in humans and 31 pairs of spinal nerves in humans. So it is 1, 2, 3, 1. So 12 and 31. Now coming to the third category, autonomic nervous system. Now coming to third category, autonomous nervous system. It consists of nerves which connects the visceral receptors with the effectors through the CNS. So as we learnt again, the effector region is divided into two. One is autonomic and second one is somatic, right? So autonomic is one which deals with all the voluntary things, voluntary organs and CNS, whereas somatic deals with involuntary, here it is involuntary. So the autonomic deals with involuntary organs and CNS, whereas the somatic deals with voluntary and CNS. And again, autonomic is of two types. One is sympathetic and second one is parasympathetic. Parasympathetic and sympathetic. Okay, so parasympathetic and sympathetic both acts in opposite functions. Like if one helps in increasing heartbeat, the other will slows down the heartbeat. One increases the contraction and the second one will decrease the contraction. So one maybe increase the pupil size, so one dilates the pupil size. So this is all about to maintain steady state, which we are calling it as homeostasis. So this is about the proper division of nervous system. So simply the human nervous system is divided into two categories. So first one is CNS and second one is PNS. So PNS is again divided into two zones. One is efferent zone, efferent division, and second one is efferent division. Again, efferent division is of two types depending on what areas that they are involving. So first one is involuntary, which we are calling it as autonomic, and second one is voluntary, which we are calling them as somatic. And involuntary is of again two types, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Okay, next we have the structure of neuron, so which we all know in our 9th grade only. So I'll just draw here. The axon is a little bit So we all said that neuron is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. So each neuron consists of a cell body called cyton. So this part is called as cyton, or also called as cell body. Okay, and it has a number of branches arising from the cyton. See here we have multiple branches that are arising from the cell body. So neuron does not divide. So important character is like no division or no cell division will be happened in case of neurons. Once the neurons got damaged, it's final, like there is no again cell divisions that are happened, like all the epithelial tissue or connective tissue or blood, if you are talking, if the cells get degenerated, again they can be produced. But in case of neuron, there is no division back again, so that once the neuron was lost, there is like no replacement will be happen. So that is why in case of polio, if you observe, once the polio virus was attacked, the polio virus will affect on the motor neuron. So that is why the person can't walk properly, because they affect the neurons, because neuron cell cannot redivide and produce again. So once the damage was done, it is final. So neuron has a cyton which consists of nucleus. So nucleus, because we are talking about animal cell, so hence it has a nucleus within the cytoplasm, and it also have Nissl granules. Nissl granules are nothing but the modified rough endoplasmic reticulum, and they also have fine thread-like structures called as neurofibrils. And this is nucleus and cytoplasm, which is having Nissl granules, right? So here we are saying that the cyton body is having some branch-like structures. So these branches are of two types. First is dendrites. So these are called dendrites. So dendrites are short, large in number. Dendrites are short, large in number, highly branched, and has granules in them, and they carry impulse towards the cyton. So another important character is impulse, nothing but the stimuli will be carried towards the cyton. And if you observe, axon is the longest or largest extension of cell body. So this is large extension of cyton, single, no granules are present, and it carry impulse away from the cyton, So neurons are the structural and functional unit of nervous system. It has two important parts. One is cyton and second one is axon. The cyton is also called as main cell body. It has many projections. The small one are called dendrites, which carry impulse towards the cyton, and it also has a largest procession. It carries away impulse away from the neuron. So coming to the types of neurons and nerve fibers, we have three types of neurons. So coming to the types of neurons, we have three types of neurons. First one is motor neurons, which carry impulses from CNS to effector organs. And second, we have sensory neurons, which carry impulse from sensory organs to CNS. And we have mixed or dual, which carry both the functions. Okay. Next, nerve impulse, transmission of nerve impulse. How nerve impulse is transmitted? Transmission of nerve impulse. So the impulse travels from the dendrite. So first, stimuli, which you are calling it as impulse. So the impulse will be carried by the dendrites, from the dendrites towards the cyton, from the cyton to the axon, from the axon in one direction. So this all happens only in one direction. In the end of the axon, the electric impulse sets off like neurotransmitters. Right. So these neurotransmitters, again they'll cross the synapse. So synapse is nothing but the short gap between the dendrites of a neuron to the axon of another neuron. Okay, so in this way the impulse will be carried. Okay, so this is about small information about the neurons, because we already learned about the types of neurons, structure of neurons, nerve transmission, all this in 8th grade. So these neurotransmitters are the chemical compounds that transfer the information from one neuron to another neuron. The examples of these kind of neurotransmitters are, for example, if you take acetylcholine, dopamine, ACH, we call them as ACH, acetylcholine, dopamine, serotonin, glutamate. So these are the different types of examples of neurotransmitters. Epinephrine, non-epinephrine. So here when we are talking about the synapse, we are saying that one neuron, for example, if this is one neuron and this is axon and axon terminal, so another neuron is present over here. So this particular space we are calling it as synapse. So this neuron is called as presynaptic neuron because it is present before the synapse. That means the one which is undergoing the impulse at the nerve terminal, and the second one is called postsynaptic neuron, which receives the stimuli. The one which passes the impulse is called as presynaptic neuron. The one which receives is called as postsynaptic neuron. Then coming to the structure of brain, as we said, the brain and spinal cord both are covered with three important membranes called as, first one is outer membrane called as dura mater, which is usually tough, which is strong. made of collagen, which is a abundant animal protein, and it is inserted in periosteum of cranium. So periosteum is nothing but the outermost layer of bone. Outermost layer of bone. So here in the case, the bone is here in this case is cranium, because cranium is the one which covers the brain. So here the outer dura mater is covered with the, or get attached with the dura mater, and then we have second layer called as arachnoid membrane. Second, the middle layer, we have arachnoid layer. So this arachnoid layer is comparatively soft when compared with the outer dura mater, and it is non-vascularized. Non-vascularized means it doesn't have any blood supply on its own, and it is like spider web. Okay, it is like a spider web, like this structure. And then the innermost layer is called as pia mater, which is highly vascular. That means the middle arachnoid membrane is getting nutrition from the innermost layer, highly vascularized and most soft of all them. Okay. So the brain is covered with outer dura mater, middle arachnoid membrane, and inner pia mater. Outer membrane is very hard, middle is somewhat smooth, and innermost is a very softest among all them. And then coming to the brain division. So we all know that brain is divided into three important zones. First one is forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Okay, and these three layers are filled with a special type of fluid called as cerebrospinal fluid. In shortcut, we are calling them as CSF. So this fluid, cerebrospinal fluid will helps the brain, protects them from mechanical shocks. Okay, mechanical shocks. So let's discover the next regions of each brain part. So if you observe, so the brain is divided into three zones. First one is forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So the forebrain consists of again three important parts. So this is of forebrain, this middle part is the midbrain, and the last part is the hindbrain. So the forebrain consists of another important points called as olfactory lobes, cerebrum, and diencephalon. So if we discuss about olfactory lobes, these are for sense. So remember, olfactory is for sense organ like smell, whereas optic is for your vision. So smell, and these are not much developed in humans when compared to other organs, other animals like snakes, dogs, and big cats. The olfactory lobes are not well developed, not very much well developed in humans. And olfactory lobes are for sense of smell, so detect the smell changes. And then coming to the cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, which is divided into two hemispheres. These two hemispheres are right and left cerebral hemispheres. So these two are connected by corpora callosum. collosum. Okay, so it consists of two herbivorous hemispheres which are divided into four lobes. Those four lobes are, I'll show. Here you can observe the four lobes are frontal lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe. So simply the brain is divided into forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. The forebrain is consisting of olfactory lobes, cerebrum and diencephalon. When coming to the olfactory lobe, it is associated with detection of a sensory structure called as smell, and it is not very much developed in the humans when compared to other animals. Then coming to the cerebrum, which is the largest part of the brain, it consists of two cerebral hemispheres called as right and left, which are connected with corpora callosum. So this cerebrum is divided into four important lobes. First one is occipital lobe, so which is used for visual perception. Visual perception. It is associated with visual perception. And coming to the frontal lobe, it is for all muscular activities. It is for all muscular activities, speech, memory, etc. So then coming to the parietal lobe, so the parietal lobe is for touch, temperature and taste. And then the temporal lobe is for auditory, that means for hearing perception, auditory reception, understanding, speech and even for the smell. So lobes of brain, the cerebrum has all the sensory areas. If you observe all the five senses, we have visual perception is there, smell perception is there, taste perception is there, touch is there, right? So all the sensory impulses are received in case of cerebrum and stimulates general motor area where the impulses are sent to the muscles. So the five sensory organs, the five sensory neurons will transfer their stimulus to the cerebrum. From the cerebrum, the PNS will work, right? So next we have diencephalon. So forebrain consists of three important parts. So first one is olfactory lobe, which we discussed, and cerebrum we discussed about the different lobes we have, and then we have diencephalon. So coming to the diencephalon, so diencephalon is usually present in the third ventricle of the brain. So what do you mean by ventricles? So ventricles are here in this case. If you observe, so there are four ventricles in the brain, so that which protects the brain. Exactly. Okay, so if you observe, there are four important ventricles, 1 and 2, which are present on the lateral sides. Those are called lateral ventricles. And third is this region where the diencephalon is present. And the last is the fourth ventricle where the hindbrain is present. So these are the four ventricles. And then coming to the diencephalon is present in the third ventricle, that means third protective bony structure. It consists of thalamus and hypothalamus. So thalamus, hypothalamus, these are also associated with endocrine system. If you observe, so the figure, I think it's got missed, but you can see here in the diagram also, like if we go front, yeah. So in the midbrain here you can see the structure. So this structure is called as thalamus and the down structure is called as hypothalamus. Down to the hypothalamus we have pituitary gland. So it recognizes the sensory impulses from heat, cold, pain and even light also. So the floor of third ventricle is called as hypothalamus. It possesses control for hunger, thirst, thermoregulation, sleep, etc. all those. So these are the important parts of forebrain. So brain is divided into three regions: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. And forebrain is again having three important divisions. First one is olfactory lobe, second one is diencephalon, and third one is cerebrum. Olfactory lobes are associated with sensory smell, whereas cerebrum is having four important lobes: frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital. Each one has their main functions associated with sensory impulses. And third one is diencephalon, which is divided and present in the third ventricle, which is having thalamus and hypothalamus, which are also in sensory and as well as processing information. Then coming to the midbrain consists of, so second important part is midbrain. The midbrain consists of usually four important optic lobes. So this is for optic function. So four important optic lobes are present, called as corpora quadrigemini. Okay, these centers are the control for the movement of eyes and hearing response. So here you can see here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So these four structures are considered as hindbrain. So this is like forebrain, this is midbrain, and this third part is called as hindbrain. So these four structures are present in the midbrain. So then we have the next part called as hindbrain, or the last part of the brain. So in the hindbrain we have three important parts. First one is cerebellum, pons varolii and medulla oblongata. So here if you observe, so it has three important parts: cerebellum, medulla oblongata and pons varolii. So cerebellum, if you observe, it controls coordination and adjustments of equilibrium. That means movement of equilibrium plus your posture position. You are getting balanced because of this cerebellum only. And then pons varolii is having a unit called as respiratory center, which controls all your inhalation rate and as well as exhalation rate, totally like your breathing rate, how far you need to take the breathing length. All this will be present in the respiratory center, which is present in the pons varolii. And third part we have medulla oblongata, which is the posterior most part of the brain and continues as the spinal cord. Okay, so it controls all involuntary functions such as heartbeat, breathing rate, secretion of saliva, swallowing, coughing, sneezing, vomiting. All these are the functions that are associated with medulla oblongata. Then coming to the spinal cord is the extension of brain which is protected in a bony structures called vertebral column, and it also has the same three coverings that are the brain is having, and it also has a cerebrospinal fluid, and it acts as a center for spinal reflexes. So are all simply called as reflex actions. So what are reflex actions? So coming to the reflex actions, these are rapid automatic responses which doesn't require any thinking or command from the brain. So that stimulates by an organ or organ system which doesn't consult with the brain. So which means like there is no involvement of brain. So there is like not so much time for waiting or to get intimation from the brain. So a reflex action is an unconscious, usually without willing and involuntary response to the effectors to a stimuli. So if a sudden stimuli was exhibited, you need to respond very quickly for that. So that these actions are called as reflex actions which are unconscious. That means you are not conscious about what the thing that you are doing. So these are like done voluntarily. These are done with involuntary. So mammals show a wide range of reflexes which we can broadly divide into two classes. So these reflex actions are of two types. First one is unconditioned reflexes and second one is conditioned reflexes. Conditioned reflexes and second one is unconditioned reflexes. So when coming to the unconditioned reflexes, if you observe, even without any past experience also, you will produce some response to the stimuli. For example, these are the responses that are natural. So these are natural instinct. That means these are the reflex actions that you learn, that these are not learned. Okay, basically these are instinct. That means they are present at the time of, from your time of birth. Okay, so these responses to a natural unconditional stimuli, the examples of unconditional stimuli are usually blinking of eye when a particular, so these like, so blinking of eye when any dust particle or foreign particle touches your eyelids, or excitement of salivary glands to produce saliva production when you see any tasty food or when you are seeing any food that was prepared, right? So these are the some examples of unconditioned reflexes. Okay, so we have certain type of stimulus also. For example, if you take examples of stimuli, for example, if you take for example, if any foreign body, if any particle, dust particles attach on the surface of the eye, the response, the reflex that you will, so this is stimuli. So the stimuli, you will produce one reflex. So what is that reflex? Immediately we will start blinking. And what is the response you are giving? Eyelids will close plus water will be produced, right? So second example, if you observe, if any foreign particle irritates your nose or larynx, what is the reflex we will do? We will immediately sneeze or cough. So this reflex is produced because of the response. Your chest muscles and your diaphragm will voluntarily contract and relax violently so that it will produce a gust of air. So these are important unconditioned reflexes. So reflex actions are nothing but the sudden, rapid, automatic, involuntary actions that the body will produce according to the stimuli. And these reflex actions are of two types, unconditioned and conditioned. Whereas unconditioned, these are natural, that means these are instinct. That is like you are not going to learn how to react for a particular stimuli. So for example, if you take, if any foreign body attaches to your or got settled in your throat or on your eyelids, on your eye surface, what you will do, you will immediately start blinking and you will produce, the eyelids will close and you start producing water. So these are the things that are usually done with unconditioned reflexes. So when conditioned reflexes, if you observe, these are not naturally done. So these reflections are done when learned because of past experience. Okay, so first example, so conditioned reflexes are done with learned nature with past experiences. Okay, so for example, if we take, there is an important experiment that was done by Ivan Pallon. Ivan Pallon, who is a Russian biologist. So he conducted the experiment on dog. So he conditioned the dog. In Ivan Pavlov's experiment, he worked with dogs. Normally, if you observe when a dog So normally if you observe when a dog sees food, it automatically starts salivate, right? So that's a natural reflex. It doesn't learn this, it just happens, right? So but Pavlov tried something different. He rang bell just before giving the food. So first he used to ring the bell before giving food. After doing this for several times, the dog started salivate just by hearing the bell, even when there is no food was given. So this means the dog had learned a new reflex. That means when the bell rings, the person will offer him some food. So that is why after doing it several times, the dog started salivating just by hearing the bell sound, even if their food was not given. So this reflex is called as conditioned reflex. So simply here a natural reflex, if you observe in natural reflex, that means non-conditioned reflex, if the dog sees the food, it will start producing salivation, produces saliva. But in conditioned reflexes, what happen? Even though the food is not seen, the bell rings, it is start producing salivation. So this shows that reflexes are not always fixed. Some reflexes can be learned by training, like Pavlov's experiment. So if you have another example also, if you observe a cow which is walking nearby an electric fence. For example, if this is an electric fence and the cow is walking inside in it or grazing inside. So if the cow accidentally touches the electric fence, what happens? It will get a small electric shock which is painful and scary. So that's a natural reflex. Pain makes the cow to move away. Now after this happens a few times, the cow starts to avoid going near the fence, even if it does not shocked also. So just seeing the fence enough, the cow will step back. So this is an example of how the conditioned reflexes can be helpful for a man. And we have an instrument called as EEG, which we are calling it as electrocardiogram, which records all the electric potentials that your body's nervous system is performing. So coming to the sense of eye. So we have two important sense organs which we are dealing today. So first one is your eye and second one is the ear. So if you observe the eye is usually spherical in structure, right? So the eye will be in spherical structure, and we call them as eyeball, and these eyeballs are present in the eye sockets of the skull, and because of the spherical structure they can rotate in 360 degrees. Okay, with the help of certain muscles. The eyes are provided with movable eyelids which are present on the surface of the eyeballs, which will produce immediate closure if there is any disturbance in the eye. And the eyes are also provided with glands called as lacrimal glands, which are in shortcut also called as tear glands, which produce tears if there is any disturbance or any type of foreign body enter into the eye, and tears will wash off and clean them and keep them lubricated. So usually the wall of the eyeball is made up of 3 layers. If you observe, the outermost layer is called as sclera. Down to the sclera we have second layer called as choroid, and third layer is nothing but retina. So these are the 3 important layers that make up the whole eye. So the outermost layer is tough, the sclera is tough, and in front part if you observe the blue color region from here to here, if you observe, the front part is non-color, it is transparent. So this transparent part of sclera is called as cornea. So transparent part of sclera. transparent part of sclera is called as cornea. So the middle part is vascular and it is called as choroid. So it is a pigmented part, and in front we can call it as iris. So this red color part here we are calling it as iris. So iris is the one which helps in increase or decrease the size of the pupil, and the innermost layer is the retina, where we can see all the photosensitive cells like rods and cones, everything. So within the eye, the lens is suspended by a sensory, so this is the lens, and this lens is suspended with the help of suspensory ligaments which are helped with ciliary muscles which are having the contraction. They will adjust the convexity of the lens, focusing the light rays. So they are protective pigmented disc between the cornea, and the disc is called iris. So usually the iris will increase and decrease the size of the pupil. If there is dim light outside, the iris will get extended back so that the more amount of light will enter into the lens pupil and into the inside. If the outside light is very bright, they will contract and make only limited amount of light to enter into the body. So this hole in the center is called as pupil, and this will adjust the things. So near to the center of retina of the eye is the most sensitive region known as fovea, or also called as yellow spot. So usually in this region there is a lot amount of rods and cones. So usually it is having a high reflective area. So the distribution of these photosensitive cells is not uniform. It is maximum in sensory cells. Just below this region, so down to the fovea, we have one more region called as blind spot. So here rods and cones are absent, so even the light if falls, it doesn't form any image. So from here only the optic nerve will be carry all the information from the eye to the brain. So the space between, so the totally the eye can be divided into two regions, one before the lens and after the lens. So the one before the lens is called as aqueous chamber or aqueous humor, and the one which is present after the lens we are calling it as vitreous chamber or vitreous humor. So this is about the eye. And then we have sense of hearing and balance organ. So coming to the human ear, it is covered with, it is having functions of hearing and body balance. So usually we all know that the body of ear is divided into three regions. One is external ear, middle ear, and second one is innermost ear. This is outer ear, middle ear, and innermost ear. The external ear consists of usually outer pinna. So this is called as outer pinna, and then it consists of an auditory canal which passes the information from external source to the auditory drum, so called as here the eardrum, or also called as tympanic membrane. So the middle ear usually consists of three important smallest tiny bones called as malleus, incus, and stipes. So this is incus, malleus, and stipes. Okay, so these are also scientifically called as malleus, incus, and stipes, and normally we call them as hammer, anvil, and stirrup muscles. So an eustachian tube is present. This eustachian tube which connects the middle ear with the throat. So that is where sometimes you might get pain. Both, if you are having pain in your middle ear, even your throat will become somewhat difficult to swallow and everything, right? So these three bones are called as ear ossicles. So simply the ear is having three important parts: outer ear, middle ear, and innermost ear. The outer ear consists of the external outer pinna and auditory canal, whereas the inner ear consists of three important bones called as malleus, incus and stipes, and these three are called as ear ossicles, and it also has an eustachian tube. So the stipes will open into the inner ear with a oval shaped window. Okay, so this is the oval shaped window, and then another opening is also present which connects the middle ear with the internal ear is the round window. So one is the oval window and second one is the round window. So internally, if you observe, there are two important parts are present. One is a snail shaped structure called as cochlear, and three semi-circular canals called as which are located in 90 degrees with each other are present. So these canals are filled with a fluid, and the middle ear consists of usually sensory and hearing aspects. So, and usually these are from then we have the auditory or cochlear nerve will passing from them. So how they are going to balance inside and how the sounds are helpful for production which helps in hearing means, first steps of hearing. So usually first step, sound waves enter your ear through outer ear, and then these waves hit the eardrum and make it vibrate. Right. So these vibrations passes three tiny bones, malleus, incus and stipes, and make the bone stronger, vibrate. The last bone pushes the small window called as oval window and sends vibration to the inner ear fluid. So the sound vibrations will be taken up by the external ear and then transferred into the eardrum. From the eardrum they are transferred into the malleus, incus and stipes will open into the inner ear by the oval window. Next, the inside the inner ear, the cochlear, the fluid moves because of the vibration and bends tiny hair cells. So these movement of hair cells will produce an electrical signal to the auditory nerve, which makes the brain hears the sound. So nothing but first ear which gets the vibrations and fluid will undergo change, movement, and hair cells will bend. The hair cells will produce the signal. The signal will be detected by the brain. Right. So this is how about the ear will function in producing the sound and making the nervous stimuli very easy and respond according to the stimuli very quickly and very effectively. So in the next class we will discuss about how the endocrine system is going to work and how the hormones are secreted and helps in maintaining the control and coordination. Thank you all.